Om Bhadram Karne Vishrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhirya Chatraha Stirairangais Tushtuvagum Sastanuvihi Vyashema Devahitayadayuhu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, all gods, may we hear with our ears what is auspicious. O ye adorable ones, may we see with our eyes what is auspicious. May we sing praises to ye and enjoy with strong limbs and body the life allotted to us by the gods. Om, peace, peace, peace. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I think it's, they thought I was taller, but I think I'll be all right. Our topic today, as Amal just mentioned, is the inner life. And it's a very important topic. And I think it's my favorite one. I will try my best to explain and expose here what I consider to be the real inner life, and how we can practice in our day-to-day life. There is a verse from the Katha Upanishad that says, Anoraniyam mahato mahiyanatmasya chantor nihito guhayam. The self, capital self, is smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest, dwells in the hearts of all creatures. The self is smaller than the smallest and greater than the greatest, dwells in the hearts of all creatures. Now, the other day I was having a conversation with one of my monastic brothers, and kind of like talking about the yoga of karma, of unselfish work. I found myself repeating again and again, you have to do it from your heart. It has to come out from your heart. What do we mean? What is this heart? What do we mean by this heart that is so natural to us and yet so mysterious? Is it natural to you to say my heart? When you cook, you do it with love. So we hear this message again and again in the Upanishads, and we go, sure, the Lord, the inner self, capital self, the Atman in Sanskrit, dwells within our heart. But what do we do about it? Do we contemplate and try to understand its implications in our life? This sloka from the Katha Upanishad, again, says in its second part, Tamah kratuh pashyati vita shoko dhatum prasadan mahiman atmanaha. The desireless one sees that glory of the self through the serenity of the organs, and thereby becomes free from sorrow. The desireless ones the desireless one, sees that glory of that self, the capital self, through the serenity of the organs, and thereby becomes free from sorrow. Unless the mind and senses are restrained from their ways and made tranquil, the self, that big self, cannot be fully experienced nor manifested. Therefore, there is necessity of keeping the mind and senses perfectly tranquil for attaining what we call self-realization. And by realization we mean let it be real, here and now. By analyzing the inner life today, we will try to understand the need to regain that inner strength so that we can get back to ourselves, to our inner self. Because our primary duty as human beings expresses the determination to discover insights into life, to penetrate into the notion of self-existence and realize the joy of freedom. There is one aspect of our life which is known to all of us. Our everyday life, in which we are conscious of all that we do, and this aspect may be called our outer life. But there is another aspect, the life that goes within us. Sounds like we have two lives, Swami. Well, we have an outer life. You have a life that everybody else sees. And then you have a life that is very private to you, that only you and what we call God see. We call it the inner life. Although other people may see sometimes the results of our inner life, they don't actually see. They don't actually see it unless we let go. The truth is that many don't even know what's going on in their inner life because they don't even pay attention to it. Has it ever happened to you? And they don't really think that it matters. But guess what? It does. A lot. We got used to live like zombies without knowing who we are, without knowing what we want, without knowing the direction, the goal of our human life. We cling so much to this outer way of living that it has become instinctive. Our outer life is our reputation with people, is what we want to show to the world, is how we want to look, the ways we dress, your preferences, your colors, your perfume, your car, your show. But when it comes to our inner life, I'd like to make a differentiation. Our inner life could be said to be our thoughts, our imagination, our emotions, our fantasies that occupy our mind when we are alone with ourselves. Should I say it again? Our inner life could be said to be our thoughts, our imagination, our emotions, our fantasies that occupy our mind when we are alone with ourselves. Our inner life could be said to be that different you when you are away from the distracting noises and preoccupations of the outer world, and there are no pressures and pretensions, and no need to wear a mask to impress anyone. That is one aspect of our inner life, where we entertain all sorts of thoughts according to our desires, to our likes, and according to our imagination. Now, there is another aspect of our inner life who I would like to focus on today. That is the most important aspect, essential, I would say. Essentially, it is the only type of life that we need to get. So when we say get a life, what do we mean? Do we use it? We mean that we need to start living to its fullest and a more interesting existence. Let's get a life. But we can only do that when we start accepting who we really are, when we find the center in our heart. By our heart, I mean the source of peace, the dwelling place of the soul, the inner self, the capital self. This is the Atman, the self, pure consciousness, free and uncontrollable, surpassing all outer attention, transcending inner awareness, and conveying both through the experience of oneness, beyond thought, unimaginable, beyond body, untouchable, beyond senses, ineffable, beyond the end of evolution, beyond you and I, and our private oneness. That is the self, the capital self, the witness, that who we are. The Upanishads firmly declare that our mind is rooted in our heart. When our heart rests, cradle, in a calm, abiding presence, our mind settles into a relaxed stillness. To know your inner self is to know your essence. To know your inner self is to know your purpose, your values, your visions, your motivations, your goals, and, most importantly, your intuition. Now, the Upanishads appeal a lot to this so-called intuition. The Shvetasvatara Upanishad says, his form does not stand within the range of the senses. No one perceives him with the eye. Those who know him through the faculty of intuition, as thus seated in their heart, become immortal. The supersensuous way of knowing is what we call intuition. This implies that intuition is the heightened power of cognition, born of the refinement and concentration of all the faculties of the mind, feeling, thought, and will. As you can see, knowing your inner self requires a high level of introspection, awareness, and alertness. It's not as what you have been told by others, but what you have discovered for yourself by the power of your intuition. Let's relax a little bit. I know. It's a little high, sorry. But there is no other way. When we read our scriptures, they point to this faculty. I know it's a little bit beyond reason, but let's try to connect to it. Let's try to make contact with our real self, within ourselves. There is a fact that we can't get there unless, in the words of the Upanishads, the knots of the heart are loosened. The knots of the heart is a phrase that occurs frequently in the Upanishads. What do we mean by this? It stands by ignorance, obsessed desire, hankering, clinging to passions that beget attachment and frustration. Let us loosen the knots of our heart. In other words, selfish motives. These are the knots that constitute the basis of ignorance, and when they are cut, ignorance is dispelled, and the self, the Atman, is free from abstractions. In other words, in the experience of the Atman is involved not only this intuition born of the refinement and concentration of the mind, but all of them purified by ethical life. All of them purified by ethical life. This ethical life and this power of concentration, called intuition, unified into a form of cognition, will give us an unerring and unshakable certainty. I know it's not easy, but it is possible. Coming back to these two aspects of our inner life, if our outer life is a reputation with people, our inner life is the reputation with our innermost being, the capital Self, God. The concept of God is a fundamental element in the human constitution. In Vedanta, the end of the Vedas, in the Upanishads, it is said that God is Sat Chit Ananda, existence absolute, knowledge absolute, and bliss absolute. This is the highest concept of God possible to the mind. You can't grasp it. It's absolute. There is the me that I project to the outside in the way I talk, the way I dress. Women put on some makeup and jewelry. But there is something that goes on inside that nobody really knows. Whether our thoughts, our words match our actions, our deepest feelings. What goes on inside isn't ever the same as what goes on outside. Do we want to be hypocrites? I ask you. Nobody wants to be a hypocrite. To pretend a show, to put on a show for everybody. But there is a witness who wants to be free and struggles to be free. Who is that witness? Some inner voice tells us that we are free. Some inner voice already is telling us that we are free. But if we attempt to realize that freedom, to make it manifest, we find the difficulties almost insuperable. Yet, in spite of that, it insists, that inner voice insists on asserting itself inwardly. I am free. I am free. Our inner life wants to be transparent. Our inner life wants to match our outer life. Ourselves, who we are, wants to express itself. Wants to manifest to its fullest. All human life, all nature, therefore, is struggling to attain freedom. The sun is moving towards the goal, so is the earth encircling around the sun, and so is the moon encircling round the earth. To that goal the planet is moving, and the air is blowing. Everything is struggling towards that freedom. Everything is struggling towards that freedom. The saint is going towards that voice. He can't help it. It is no glory to him. So is the sinner. The charitable man is going straight towards that voice and cannot be hindered. The miser is also going towards the same destination. The greatest worker of good hears that same voice within, and he cannot resist it. He must go towards that voice. So with the most arrogant idler. One stumbles more than another, and him who stumbles more, we call him bad. Him who stumbles less, we call good. Good and bad are never two different things. They are one and the same. The difference is only in kind. The difference is not one of kind, not one of kind. The difference is one of degree. Good and bad are never two different things. They are one and the same. The difference is not one of kind, but one of degree. You are the infinite. The universal is in you. Control yourself and listen to the voice of your true self. Give yourselves a moment for introspection. Where am I going? Where do I want to be? Am I fulfilled? What am I lacking? You should ask yourselves, who am I? What is my life purpose? Why am I here? What do I want to be? What are my values? What kind of values do I want to carry in my life? What are my motivations in life? What do I believe in? I'd like to encourage you to live the life you deserve. We need to start living it. It should not be something simply you believe in. It should be yours. It should become real in this very life. The other day, we were watching spiritual teacher, and someone in the audience grabbed a mic and put a question to him. I don't want to say that someone was a monk, but he put the following question. He said it. What are the different ways of realizing God? How many ways are there out there to realize God? And this spiritual teacher said, you see how many people are here? As many people as are here, present here today. That many different ways of realizing the self. And this person started arguing, giving all sorts of quotations from the scriptures. And suddenly he was interrupted. Sir, that is not what you live. That is what you believe in. But that's not enough. So we have to make an effort, really, to match this belief in our life. That is why to conquer ourselves is so hard, because we have to turn to ourselves and start exploring, start inquiring, start facing the brood, so that we can get that strength. In the life of Swami Dhyanayogananda, once upon a time, he was a wandering monk in India, and he was visiting Varanasi. There is a temple, a Durga temple, and behind it there is a huge pond, and suddenly he started being chased by monkeys. So many monkeys. I've seen them, trust me. There are so many monkeys, really wild. And he started running. And suddenly he heard someone telling him, face the brood, face the brood. That struck his mind. And he turned back and faced the brood. And all the monkeys ran away. Our main source of strength, guess what it is? Within ourselves, nowhere else. Our main why is the need to be free. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. It is spending time with yourself, a life of self-scrutiny. We need to learn how to articulate our movements of our inner life so that we can help ourselves by our own self. Inner life is a choice in where we center our attention. At the same time, the process of discovering is never ending, never ends. It's a lifelong journey, very painful journey sometimes, because we keep falling in the snares of our fundamental enemy. Who is our fundamental enemy? Mind, ego, ourselves. If we are identified with that ego, it is definitely our main enemy. Our me, mine, myself, that's our enemy. The condition of taking the path of the inner life is that one should first be free. Free of what? This is indeed a very heavy load, a lot of a struggle. It's like the backpack we carry when we go camping or hiking. In the beginning, there is willingness. Yeah, I can do this. I can bear with this weight. After some times, it turns really heavy. We just need a break. We just need a break of ourselves. You simply get tired. Tired of the battle going inside you. Let me tell you a story. The battle goes inside the people, between two walls, inside us all. One is evil, anger, hatred, violence, confusion, selfishness. The other is good, represented by self-control, patience, contentment, forgiveness, unselfishness. Which of these walls win, Grandma? The child asked. The one you feed, she said. Our thoughts, our attitude towards our problems, as you can see, all that goes inside us. All that goes inside us is of much more importance than the things that go around us. How long can we pretend to be someone that is not flowing as the real us? There is a goal. Indeed, there is a goal. What is that goal? The goal is to make our outer life and our inner life one. But before, we have to get an inner life. How do we do that? Well, if you have never given much thought about your inner self, it is likely you have become defined a lot by your identities. It is common for people to see themselves as a certain role, such as friend, partner, employee, father, son, daughter, and so on. Some spend their whole lives building themselves around such identities. To make contact with your inner self is the first step of living a conscious life of your own making. The inner life deals with your inner voice, your relationship with God, the most important relationship you have to nurture. The inner life is where your heart is. The inner life allows to unfold the language of the heart. Two people may live together for 25 years, for 40 or for 50 years, and may still not be able to understand one another. Is it true? You have the experience? Sorry. Yet, the inner life would enable them to understand one another in a moment. In a moment. No matter how strange that person can be. Why not? The language of the heart speaks louder than words can speak. If the ears of the heart were open to hear that language, our outer words would not be necessary. Are you singing from your heart or from your mind? When I was talking with my fellow monastic brother here, speaking about the heart, doing things from the heart, He says, yes, yes. It's like when you sing. When you sing, you have to sing from your heart and not from your mind. And I'm like, yes, I like that. Then I ask you, are you singing from your heart? Are you living from your heart? Inner life has been called a chamber of divine light in one's heart. The door remains closed until an effort is made to open it, until we are determined to make an effort to go inside it. Everything becomes spiritual once this door of this chamber of the heart is open. Yes, my dear friends, our inner life is our spiritual life. There is no other life possible. By descending into the safety of a nurturing heart, we regain confidence in our inner voice. Returning into silence, the absence of word and thought realigns each of us with a calm, abiding presence. By descending into the safety of a nurturing heart, we regain confidence in our inner voice. Returning into silence, the absence of word and thought realigns each of us with a calm, abiding presence. In meditative silence, we hear our inner calling, find the light of wisdom shining in our minds, and learn to distinguish genuine insight from merely mental ideation. If a man is a musician, then his music is celestial. If she is a poet, then her poetry is spiritual. If he is an artist, then his art is a spiritual work. Whatever he or she may do in life, that divine spirit manifests. He need not be a religious person. He need not be a philosopher. He need not be a mystic. It is simply that what was hidden in him and thereby was keeping his life incomplete begins to manifest to view, and that makes his life perfect. That enables a man to express life in its fullness. Do you sympathize with this? For many of us, the creative, transformational power of our imagination has atrophied through being degraded, cast aside, and replaced by an overlay, excessive rational, materialistic intellect. If we have been trained to look outside ourselves for recognition and to listen to external voices for validation, we can now return our attention to our inward path. Retrain our concentration to experience this present moment and regain our native ability to use all of our senses on behalf of stimulating a numbed soul. How are the meditative souls awakened? How do they experience inner life? The first condition, that man should value the inner life more than anything else in the world, more than wealth, more than power, more than position, more than rank, or anything else. It doesn't mean that in this world he should not pursue the things he needs. It means he should value most something which is really, really worthwhile. The next thing is that when one begins to value something, one thinks it is worthwhile giving time to it. It's not enough just to quietly listen and go, yeah, it sounds good. And then just go back to your cars, drive home, and start again. Well, yeah, that was good. It's a nice message. By the way, I forgot already. What was that? Has to make sense. We need to do something about it. We need to give time to it. We need to practice. So if a person gives his precious time to what he considers most worthwhile, more so than anything else in the world, then that is certainly the next step towards inner life. Because our whole spiritual transformation brings us to the point where we realize in our own being that we are enough. Support your life by never forgetting the most important and fundamental relationship in your life. The relationship with your most inner being, the source of all independent, permanent and eternal bliss, eternal contentment, eternal happiness. That's your essence. Your relationship with the Lord is the only permanent relationship you can ever have. Living God, it is in Him, through Him, and everything is for Him. The moment you lose sight of that fundamental relationship with God, your life becomes directionless and miserable. Number 3. The third condition, the condition of his mind, should be relieved of the pressure which is always in a person's heart. What is that pressure? When he thinks that he has not done what he ought to have done towards his fellow being, partner, father, brother, you name it. There is an unfinished business. We haven't said the right word. Hey, I'm sorry, I messed up. I didn't know any better. That should be cleaned. A person may give his valuable time to contemplation, to a spiritual life. We see this a lot. Now some passion, everyone is like, yeah, I'm spiritual. But yet, at the same time, his mind is disturbed. His heart is not at rest, for he feels he has not done his duty. Do we not often notice the disturbing presence of people who have not got the tranquility, that peace, that calmness, and yet they call themselves spiritual? Do we not? The concept of Dharma is that which supports the existence of a thing. That is dharma in our language, Vedic language. Those virtues, values, attitudes, and principles which keeps us together is dharma. Says the Muktida Upanishad, the stream of tendencies flowing through good and evil channels is to be directed to self-effort along the good path. We have to cultivate the seeds of dharma, that which is good, that which is right, within our hearts. We have to make an effort. A mystic is often called a seer. And a great yogi has said, in order to see what is before you, you must first see within yourself. Now the sages who have realized that inner life have realized it by contemplated means. But each and every one of us, can be in the midst of the world and yet stand above the world. The only way to stand above it is by the discovery of this inner self. We should stop identifying ourselves with the superficial world. Let us stop this instinctive clinging to what is dependent, impermanent, and ephemeral. Be free. Please be free. The first inkling of life on its higher level is in seeing this struggle within us to break the bond of nature and be free. Freedom, oh freedom, freedom, oh freedom is the song of the soul. Then we will play like the actor. This is very nice. I really, really like it. Hope you do too. Then only we will play like the actor who comes upon the stage and plays the part of a beggar. Contrast him with the actual beggar walking the streets. The scene is perhaps the same in both cases. The words are perhaps the same, but yet there is a difference. The one enjoys his beggary. The one enjoys his beggary, while the other is suffering misery from it. Does it make sense? And in what makes this difference? The one is free and the other is bound. The actor knows his beggary is not true, but that he has assumed it for play, while the real beggar thinks that it is his too familiar state and that he has to bear with it, whether he wills it or not. You see it? Inner life is a life from the soul. Space is in the soul, not the soul in a space. As the soul, we are not in time and space. All time and space are within us, within the soul. The center of that soul is our heart. Now when we say, you have to put your heart, it's so common to us. I'm pretty sure most of you can sense exactly what I mean. This. It's just that we lost track of it. We got used to this superficial life. And we know when we act from that center. We know when we think and talk from that center. Let our words, thoughts, and deeds be one. Let our words, thoughts, and deeds be one. Let our outer and inner life be one. Let us be one. Let us be free. Thank you. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. That is full. This also is full. From fullness comes that fullness. Taking fullness from fullness, fullness indeed remains. Om, peace, peace, peace.